when we say community media, and I think we know what that means, like it means something to us. But if you were going to explain community media to someone, what would you say?
I would say, like, well, the first thing is, you can explain what community media is. It's a place where the people in the community are able to talk about what they have in common, what they have, and the ways that they differ, and, to be able to share with each other, what their cultures, their interests are, their visions, and so forth. But I also like to emphasize that we get caught on the media part a lot. When we talk about media, we could be talking about television, radio, podcasts, YouTube, Hulu, whatever it happens to be. But the real emphasis is actually on community. And so, when people talk about, oh, you work at that television station, I say, well, yeah, it's a television station, but what we actually do is community. What we actually do is we use the processes of production and the means of distribution to bring people together into a community. Because, you think about it, it's like you have all these diverse interests and they don't always get along, in real life, but you can bring them all into the community media center and there's an immediate appreciation of the value of the difference and the value of tolerance and being able to get along with each other. So it's a real practice of creating the kind of community that we want the greater community to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alease, since you are really in kind of the marketing promotions line of Brick, how do you talk about it? How do you, because so oftentimes I introduce myself and I tell them I work at a community media center and we have a television station and a radio station. They say, oh, well, how many people watch your station or how many people listen? And I'm like, well, it's not about that. It's really about, the relationships and the community that we build together in doing this work, lifting up voices that you're not going to necessarily hear other places. Is that sort of a similar approach to you? Like how do you talk about it, Alease?
I think it's probably maybe 3 or 4 words. So like if I'm out at an event speaking to someone about who we are, what we do, I describe it as a place for education, opportunity, access, distribution. Well, yeah, education. Yeah. Well, no, can't forget community. I gotta play off what you just said, Tony. I messed that up.
It's a community for these 4 things. No.
Okay. All right. All right. There we go. It's a community for these 4 things: education, opportunity, access, and distribution. So that's how I would describe it. I try to so I don't lose their attention in any way.
I'm gonna use that. That's actually really good. I have a tendency to kind of get lost in my sentences, and so having something really succinct, I think, is good. I like that.
But you guys, don't you have people power
media? Yeah.
I mean, that's like I never forgot that. Yeah. That's always been, and I didn't even have to. I can hardly see that there. I remembered that from years ago, even being in Philly for an ACM conference and how you guys have that center, the bright pink.
Yeah, on the front of our building.
That's powerful. That's good stuff right there.
Thank you. So every community media center or public access station has its kind of own personality, way that we do our work, how we kind of work with our community members. Like, tell us what you do at Brick, and is there a particular vibe? Like, what's popping at Brick right now?
Okay, so right now is a good place to start. So we actually have Brick Jazz Fest going on starting this evening, the next 3 nights. So it's really high-level jazz entertainment on 2 different stages here in the building. As I mentioned, Brick is a media arts center, so we have media, but we also have performing arts and contemporary arts, which is like visual arts and so forth. And right now, they're setting up a stage down in the art gallery. There's a beautiful show going on with Rodrigo Valenzuela, I think his name. Mm-hmm. Beautiful show. And that's going to be the backdrop for some jazz musicians that are playing tonight. So that's contemporary and performing arts, but we're also capturing it using video. So we have all of our disciplines in there working together. And so that's a little bit different. It really comes back to that same notion that every access center needs to reflect the community that it's in. And so we're very different, for instance, from Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is, right in the middle of the busiest part of New York. And then you have BronxNet, which is, the the borough that's got the biggest chip on its shoulder, but for good reason.
Yeah.
And, so they're very, very strong in developing a personality for the community, a personality that's, positive and strong for the community. And you've got Queens, which is the most diverse place in America. There's so many different kinds of people there. And so they serve that community. And then Staten Island, which is like, it's amazing. It would be the biggest city in your area, except it's sort of a suburb here in New York City. And so it's got a really distinct personality of its own. And each one of us does it in a little bit different way based on what the needs of the community are.